As the barbaric scope of the massacre in Syria continues to expand, Syrian Christians are once again caught in the crossfire. Juliana Taimoorazy, Nobel Peace Prize nominee for advancing awareness of the persecution of Christians in the Middle East, joins us now. Juliana, what are you hearing from Syria?
Awful, terrible news, terrible news. Uh, yesterday, I heard that there were 15 doctors that were murdered because they were Alawites, supposedly supporters of Assad, women, children, men. I must warn your audience about what I'm about to say. It's a little bit gruesome. I've watched videos that I can never unsee again. I've seen hearts being carved out of bodies. I have seen duct tape being placed on men's eyes, and then they stand them on the mass graves and shoot them, and they don't die, and then they beat them after they have shot them. The dehumanization that is happening on the ground. They make them bark like dogs. They make them walk on legs and their hands on their knees and hands. It is absolutely an atrocity. I'm a student of the Holocaust, and we read those things in the pages of history, right? And then we recently came from 10 years ago was the ISIS genocide in Iraq. But really, this is on a different scale, on another scale. Why are they killing the children? The children were not supporters of Assad. And the Christians that have come under attack, they're terrified, absolutely terrified.
Oh, that is just demonic. There's no other way to describe it. Help us understand. So it seems like the reports are that this is mainly against the Alawites, right? The nationality, the ethnicity of the former Assad regime. But Christians are also being targeted. Can you help explain that for us?
So the Alawites are they're considered to be heretic to the Muslims, and therefore they're not protected by the jihadists, if you will. Christians are people of the book. And because they're a small minority and because of the atrocities that Assad had committed, also last week, I believe it was Thursday, when some supporters of Assad attacked the forces of this new regime. This regime is brutal. Please don't get me wrong, but they ambushed these new forces, and this is what's transpiring right now is in retaliation of what happened in the hands of the Assad supporters. Um, the other thing that I have to really tell your audience is that when the West welcomed al-Jolani to power, how quickly do we forget that this man was an Al-Qaeda member, an ISIS member, when he was in Idlib, which is in northern part of Syria. They were using Turkish lira, supported by Turkey. How quickly do we forget? As soon as he puts a suit on and a necktie, he becomes a Westerner. This massive attack that has been happening against the Alawites, it is systematic. You hear them speak. Oh, and very importantly, I must say that the fighters, you look at them, you watch these videos, the fighters are not Arabs, all of them. They're Chechens, there are Indonesians, there are Jordanians, there are Tajiks from Tajikistan. I mean, you will find there are some Americans. Apparently, there was a report that said that there are Americans, even just like they were embedded with ISIS. So this very diverse, very brutal group is committing demonic acts against the Alawites. And Christians, as far as Christians are concerned, we are people of the book, yes, but we're connected to Christendom. We're infidels, although we had been there as Christians for 2,000 years, but we were there before all these regimes took over and came along. We are considered, by extension, connected to the West. And because we worship the cross, because we worship Jesus Christ, we have to pay a heavy price for them, for that belief. So the churches have been targeted. The children have been targeted. Families have been massacred. And this happened also last year. This is not the first time under this regime. This happened last year too.
So you have an incredible backstory in the sense that you are an Syrian Christian who grew up in Iran, and now your focus is on Christians in Iraq and Syria. Can you help? Maybe if we're just kind of late to the story, what has it been like for Christians in Syria since the Arab Spring started a decade and a half ago?
It's been terrible. It's been terrible. We have suffered tremendously for our faith. There have been our bishops have been kidnapped. They haven't been found yet. There were so many Christians that when the prisons were liberated, or they were, yeah, we can say liberated, right? In this case, there were so many Christians that came out that we had thought that they had been killed. Um, Look, in the Middle East, we have always been considered as a bridge of understanding between the Islamic East and the Christian West. And but the number of people that is dwindling, our numbers are dropping fast from every country you can imagine. As you said, I was born in Iran. When I was in Iran in the 80s, we were probably about 40, 50,000 Assyrian Christians. Today, we have literally 3,000 people left throughout the whole country, 3,000 people. Iraq, my ancestral homeland, our ancestral homeland, second holy land, really, for all the biblical activities that had happened there. We were 1.5 million before the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Today, we have barely 100,000 people left. In Syria, the Assyrian community is 1,200 people. That's the Assyrian community, Christian Assyrian community. Overall, the Christian population into the millions we used to be. Now we're about 500,000, 400,000 people in Syria. So our numbers are dwindling because of change in demographic. What's happening today, as you see, has happened to Christians in Syria before in 2015, also in 2011. And we see that people just don't want to live like that under so much distress, dehumanized, churches bombed, clergy kidnapped. So it's a really, really tough situation. So my call, if I may, in a very small way and humbly ask the world powers to open a corridor, especially for Christians and other minorities, to safety, whether it be into Iraq, into the Iraqi Kurdistan. I would have never thought I would say, let's open a corridor into Iraqi Kurdistan or protect them as they flee to the Druze area in the south. Druze are protected by the state of Israel at the moment. So a lot of people that I'm in contact with on the ground in the western part of the country, in Syria, they say, help us flee to the Druze area, open a corridor to Iraq, we'll go to Iraq. So I'm just a small voice for the people that are suffering there.
So if this current massacre is predominantly targeting Alawites, again, the ethnicity of the former Assad regime, it's kind of, retribution, revenge. How do Christians in Syria view this? Like, they're not the direct target, quote unquote, right now, but what is their feelings? What is their anticipation of what could happen in the weeks and months ahead?
The church leadership has gone and met with the al-Jolani regime several times. But when you speak to the average people on the street, they will tell you they don't have any hope for the future. Economy is terrible there. And I think there's, in some parts of the country, there's 80% unemployment. Among Christians, there's 60% unemployment. So from an economic perspective, they're devastated. They just had an earthquake 2 years ago that devastated them. And the Islamic radicalism constantly chases them from place to place. There's so many Christians that have been killed. And I vehemently disagree that some reports say that Christians are just collateral damage, that they're not really targeted. I must disagree with this because we have seen we're always there, maybe caught in the crossfire, some say, but majority of the time we are targeted because they go after our churches, they go after our priests and our families.
Well, Juliana, we will be praying for your community and all Christians in Syria. Your work is incredible. We're going to have you back on. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you so much. God bless you and your audience. Thank you.